to be a sniffly mess into the mic, but, you know, it drives me nuts when creators do that, so. Okay, we are going to talk about Heather Stroop today. Heather was born in April of 1984, and she was, as everyone says, this bright young woman with this incredible future ahead of her, and I do have to agree. She was the daughter of Buddy and Mary Allen, and she grew up in a close-knit family with two younger brothers, Hunter and Henry. Heather did well in school, and she had a wide circle of friends. It was at a youth group gathering where she met the man who would become her high school sweetheart, and then her husband, Stephen Strube. Now, the couple seemed destined for like this picture-perfect white picket fence life together. They married young. Heather was 20 and Stephen was 21. Everyone said that was young. I see people getting married that age and younger all the time, but I do think sometimes you don't know fully who you are at that age, so. But they had the full support of their families. So Heather had this entrepreneurial spirit, and it led her to open up her own flower shop. She built on experience that she had gained working for her parents' floral business. She even thought ahead and prepared a small area in the shop for her baby, and this would allow her to balance both work and motherhood. Stephen, meanwhile, found steady work in construction, and their lives really seemed to be falling into place, and 3 years into their marriage, they topped it off by welcoming Carson, their son. But, as you know, especially on this channel, all that glitters isn't gold, and what we saw on the outside wasn't exactly what was happening behind closed doors. Their facade of domestic bliss started to crack. They're young parents, they have financial stress, she's running a business. So they went to marriage counseling, but it became clear that their union was on pretty shaky ground. Now, complicating the matters further was Stephen's mother, a woman named Joanna Haynes. She was far from the doting grandmother that you might expect. She took it upon herself to frequently criticize Heather's parenting skills. She even went so far as to direct Heather as to how she should raise her son. Joanna would often take Carson without first informing Heather of what she was doing. And I don't know if this is like from daycare, from other people, from Stephen. I couldn't really get accounts of that as to how she got a hold of the baby without Heather knowing, but still, that would be frustrating. As a parent, you want to know where your child is. So this aggravated Heather, of course. Now, even Stephen's father, who wasn't married to Joanna anymore, had some less than flattering things to say about his ex-wife's behavior. So the breaking point actually came in a misguided attempt. I'm not exactly sure what Joanna was trying to accomplish Stephen because he'd already left the area when the shooting occurred. However, the possibility that maybe he'd hired someone to commit this crime was of course on the table. Heather's new boyfriend, a man named Mike, was also investigated, but he had a solid alibi. The breakthrough in the case came from an unexpected source. A witness who had been smoking near a motel behind the target provided the police with crucial information. He reported seeing a white Ford F-150 pickup truck parked behind the store, its engine running. Inside was a person that matched the description of the shooter, complete with suspicious poofy-looking hair and mustache, who was watching the Target parking lot with binoculars. I myself would have found that extremely suspicious. This led investigators to take a closer look at Joanna Hayes, Stephen's mother. She was known for her interference in the young couple's life and for her vocal criticism of Heather's parenting skills. And Joanna, you guessed it, drove a white Ford F-150 with custom black trim, a detail that matched the witness's description. So the police call Stephen down and they confront him with this CCTV footage, and he identifies his own mother. This revelation, compiled with Joanna's evasive behavior and inconsistent statements during questioning, turned her from just a person of interest to a prime suspect in Heather's murder. As the investigation progressed, a damning picture emerged. A coworker came forward with a chilling account of a conversation from a year before Heather's murder, in which Joanna had outlined in disturbing detail how to commit a murder and get away with it. Her plan included using an illegally purchased gun, establishing a false alibi, and disposing of evidence in a body of water. These are all elements that aligned eerily with Heather's murder and the circumstances surrounding it. In a crucial piece of physical evidence, investigators found a single strand of fiber in Joanna's meticulously clean truck. Lab analysis revealed that this fiber likely came from a blonde wig, corroborating the witness's descriptions of the shooter's suspicious appearance. So in 2011, 2 years after Heather's murder, Joanna Hayes faced a jury of her peers in Gwinnett County. The prosecution presented a case that wove together circumstantial evidence, eyewitness testimony, and the complex dynamics of the Strube family. So they started with the CCTV footage and Stephen's initial identification. So while the actual shooting was not captured, surveillance video showed a person walking towards and away from the crime scene. Crucially, when he was initially shown this footage by police, Stephen identified this individual as his mother. However, it's quite important to note that he refused to testify against his mother during the trial. The eyewitness testimony was brought into account. Witnesses from the Target parking lot described seeing the person that appeared to be wearing a wig and a fake mustache approach Heather's car and engage in this heated exchange before the shooting. However, there were of course discrepancies in the shooter's height and weight compared to Joanna's actual measurement. And I never know how people do that. Oh yeah, he was about 6'4" and 250. I can never guess that correctly, so. The next was the white Ford F-150. The witness testimony about seeing the white Ford F-150 with custom black trim behind the target, occupied by someone wearing the disguise and viewing the parking lot. was a pivotal piece of evidence. The single strand of fiber from the meticulously cleaned truck. The analysis revealed that this likely came from the blonde wig. The next part was a former co-worker of Joanna's had the conversation that I explained. She outlined it exactly as it was done, which never tell people anything. So Stephen Strube Sr., Joanna's ex-husband, provided damning testimony about a 1991 incident where Joanna held a revolver to his head during an argument that they had. This established that she owned a gun and that she had violent behavior. Several inmates who had been incarcerated with Joanna testified that she had admitted to the murder while in custody, allegedly in an attempt to appear tough. The prosecution highlighted discrepancies in her alibi. She initially claimed to have been driving to visit her parents at the time of the murder, stopping to purchase food along the way. However, they couldn't prove that. The prosecution argued that Joanna's intense dislike of Heather, her criticism of Heather's parenting, and desire to have more control over her grandson's upbringing provided a strong enough motive for this crime. So the defense team faced a challenging task against all of this. Their strategy focused on several key points. Number one, the lack of physical evidence. The defense emphasized that no murder weapon was ever found, and no DNA linked Joanna directly to the crime scene. Number two, the eyewitness discrepancies. They, of course, highlighted the inconsistencies in witness descriptions of the shooter's height and weight, arguing that these did not match Joanna's physical characteristics. Number three, alternative suspects. The defense suggested the police had not adequately investigated other potential suspects, including Stephen or her new boyfriend Mike. Number four, character witnesses. Several friends and family members testified to Joanna's good character and her love for her grandson, attempting to paint a picture incompatible with the prosecution's portrayal of a cold-blooded killer. Number five, questioning the evidence. The defense tried to cast doubt on the reliability of the jailhouse statements and the interpretation of the CCTV footage. Despite the defense's best efforts, the prosecution's case proved convincing to the jury, and Joanna Hayes was found guilty of the murder of Heather Stroop. In a sad moment during the sentencing phase, Heather's father, Buddy, addressed the court. "There's no winner here today. Everybody lost." He spoke of the devastating impact on his grandson Carson, who would grow up without his mother and his grandmother in prison. Judge Warren Davis sentenced Joanna Hayes to life in prison, plus an additional 5 years, bringing a measure of closure to a case that had haunted Snellville for years. As the verdict was read, case and then refused to testify against his mother during her trial. So that highlighted the complex emotions and divided loyalties. Now, despite the, I think, overwhelming evidence and the conviction, Joanna Hayes has continued to claim her innocence. In interviews from prison, she's claimed that the police manipulated her son's testimony and that the physical evidence does not support her guilt. She argues that the discrepancies in the descriptions of the shooter's height and weight prove that she could not have been the perpetrator. This case sparked discussions about how family court procedures and the potential dangers involved in custody exchanges. Many communities then review their policies on supervised visitation and neutral exchange locations, seeking ways to prevent similar tragedies in the future. For the town of Snellville, the murder of Heather shattered their illusion of safety in their quiet suburban community. It served as a stark reminder that sometimes the greatest threats come from those closest to us and not from strangers. So, I know I'm a little raspy, but let's talk about this case a little. I think that this case is horrible. In fact, I couldn't fall asleep last night after I reread everything to make sure all my notes are in order, as I usually do before I film. Thinking about that little baby in his car seat crying. It absolutely horrified me. And I genuinely think that Joanna thought she would not get caught. And I think that she thought, well then, Stephen will get custody, and we will get to raise Carson how we want to raise Carson, instead of just having him on the weekends. You know, we'll get to make all the primary decisions, and etc., etc. I can't imagine how Stephen feels about all of this. I mean, he's definitely had much time to absorb. However, to watch that CCTV footage and then to say to the police, well, that's my mother, I can't even imagine not only the thoughts going through his head, but the shock at knowing that your mother did this. And now I'm not a mother myself, I just have fur babies, but I understand the want and need to protect your children and to try to give them the best life that you can. I feel that way about my nieces and nephews, so I can only imagine about your own kid. However, I think that Joanna was a little bit delusional in her ways of going about this, to shoot the mother of your grandchild. And then the fact that she just strolled away, she didn't even run away. She just was like, la la la, going back to her truck. I can't imagine the shoppers that watched this. It is horrifying to me, and one of those moments where I have no words to explain how I feel about this. I don't know if she's maintaining her innocence because she thinks that she will be able to appeal and get out. It's been many years now, and I feel like if she was going to do that, she would have done it. I don't know. Sometimes people get out in longer terms than that. But I feel terrible for Carson, who's not so little anymore, and Stephen, who was an unnecessary byproduct of his mother's